Let me begin with a question. Have you ever noticed how two people can face the exact same challenge, but their outcomes turn out completely different? One person sees the obstacle as the end of the road, while the other sees it as an opportunity to grow. The difference isn't luck, it isn't resources, it isn't talent. The difference is mindset. Mindset is the lens through which we view the world. It shapes how we interpret setbacks, how we embrace opportunities, and how we define success. The truth is, our lives don't change because circumstances change. Our lives change because we change the way we see them. Think of the people who inspire us most. They weren't born extraordinary. What they had was a belief, a mindset that allowed them to see possibility where others saw impossibility. They believed that failure wasn't the opposite of success, but a part of the journey toward it. Changing your mindset doesn't mean ignoring reality. It doesn't mean pretending that challenges don't exist. It means choosing to frame those challenges differently. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? We ask, what can this teach me? How can I grow from this? That simple shift transforms problems into teachers and setbacks into stepping stones. Every breakthrough starts with a change in perspective. A person who believes they can grow, who believes their skills can be developed, who believes that effort and learning create progress will always find doors that others don't even notice. But the person who tells themselves, this is just who I am, closes those doors before they even try to open them. The story of your life is not written in stone. It's written in the thoughts you choose to nurture each day. When you change your mindset from limitation to possibility, from fear to courage, from doubt to belief, you don't just change the way you think, you change the way you live. So here's the invitation. Don't wait for the world to change before you do. Don't wait for the perfect circumstance, the perfect timing, the perfect opportunity. Start with your mindset, because the moment you change it, your life begins to transform. The way you think determines the way you live. It may sound simple, almost too simple, but it is the very foundation upon which every decision, every action, and every result in life is built. If you believe the world is against you, you will look for evidence that supports that belief and miss the opportunities that could move you forward. If you believe life is full of possibilities, your mind opens to ideas, connections, and solutions that others will overlook. Mindset isn't just positive thinking, it is the lens through which reality is filtered, shaped, and ultimately experienced. Two people can stand in the same storm, but one will see destruction while the other sees renewal. The difference is not the storm, the difference is the way they choose to interpret it. Imagine waking up every morning with the belief that nothing in your life can change, that your talents, your intelligence, your circumstances are fixed. In this frame of mind, setbacks confirm your limitations, successes feel temporary, and effort feels wasted. You tell yourself, this is just who I am. That belief shapes the choices you make and the chances you refuse to take. You settle for less, not because less is all there is, but because your mindset convinces you that more is not possible. This is the danger of a fixed perspective. It turns your world into a small, confined space where growth is impossible. Now picture waking up with a different belief that growth is always possible, that mistakes are part of learning, and that effort leads to progress. Suddenly, the same setbacks that once discouraged you become valuable lessons. The challenges that used to intimidate you now excite you because you see them as opportunities to expand your limits. You are not trapped by your current circumstances because you believe tomorrow can look different from today. This is the power of a growth mindset. It transforms the same reality into a field of possibility. Consider how athletes train. Two competitors may be equally talented, but their results often differ drastically because of mindset. One sees practice as exhausting and failure as embarrassing, while the other sees practice as preparation and failure as information. The same hours, the same drills, but completely different results because of the perspective they bring to the process. Life works the same way. Talent and opportunity may open doors, but it is mindset that determines whether you walk through them, hesitate at the threshold, or never notice the doors at all. Our mindset doesn't just affect how we see external circumstances, it shapes our internal world as well. A person who carries a negative, self-defeating outlook will experience stress, anxiety, and dissatisfaction even when life is objectively good. On the other hand, someone with a resilient and hopeful mindset can face difficulty with calm, perseverance, and even gratitude. In this sense, mindset literally sculpts our emotional experience. It creates the stories we tell ourselves, and those stories become the reality we live in every single day. Think of every major breakthrough in human history. Behind each invention, discovery, or social transformation was a mindset that refused to accept the current limits as permanent. When people said flight was impossible, someone chose to believe otherwise. When society said change was too hard, someone chose to see a better future. These shifts did not begin with resources or technology. They began with a mindset that dared to imagine a different reality. The same principle applies to our personal lives. The way you choose to see the world either keeps you where you are or opens doors to where you want to be. It is also important to realize that mindset is not inherited or fixed at birth. It is cultivated. Every time you face a challenge, you are given a choice. Will you interpret this as proof that you cannot grow, or will you see it as evidence that growth requires persistence? Your mindset shapes not only how you view yourself, but also how you view others. If you believe people can grow, you will encourage, support, and uplift them. If you believe people are stuck as they are, you will judge, criticize, and distance yourself from them. This doesn't just affect your relationships, it creates the culture around you. Families, teams, and organizations thrive when a mindset of growth is shared, because everyone begins to see possibility where others see limitation. The truth is, life will always present both obstacles and opportunities. You cannot control everything that happens, but you can always control the lens through which you interpret it. And that choice, your choice, creates the difference between a life of frustration and a life of fulfillment. Failure is one of those words that carries a heavy weight, often because of the way we have been conditioned to see it. From an early age, we are taught to avoid it, to fear it, to treat it as the ultimate sign of weakness or inadequacy. Schools grade us in ways that reward perfection and punish mistakes. Workplaces promote success stories, but bury the lessons that come from trying and not succeeding the first time. In life, we often hesitate to take risks, because we are terrified of failing in front of others. Every great achievement you admire today has a trail of failures behind it. The inventions that changed the world, the leaders who shifted the course of history, the athletes who broke records, all of them stumbled and fell countless times. The difference was not that they failed less than others. The difference was how they viewed those failures. Instead of seeing them as signs of defeat, they treated them as valuable data. They asked themselves, what can I learn from this? What needs to change next time? In doing so, they turned failure into progress. The setbacks became stepping stones that carried them closer to their goals. Failure is powerful because it reveals what doesn't work. It strips away illusions and forces you to confront reality. While success may encourage comfort, failure invites growth. It pushes you to adapt, innovate, and become more resilient. People often think failure weakens you. But in truth, it strengthens the parts of you that success never touches. It teaches patience, humility, and persistence. It builds character in ways that smooth victories never can. When you embrace this understanding, you stop running from failure and begin to value it as part of your journey. Consider how children learn to walk. They do not start perfectly balanced and confident. They fall over and over again. Each fall is technically a failure, yet no one tells them to stop trying. Instead, each stumble becomes an adjustment. They learn balance, coordination, and strength with every attempt. Eventually, walking becomes natural. The lesson here is simple. Failure is only final when you stop trying. As long as you keep moving, each failure is merely part of the process of mastery. Adults often forget this truth because society convinces us that failing is shameful, when in reality, it is the same process we all use to learn the most basic skills in life. The fear of failure is often more destructive than failure itself. When your mindset frames failure as something to be avoided at all costs, you limit your willingness to take risks. You stop pursuing opportunities because you would rather stay safe than stumble. Ironically, this guarantees the very outcome you fear most. You fail by default, not because you tried and fell short, but because you never tried at all. Changing your mindset allows you to reframe this fear. Failure no longer becomes a reflection of who you are, but simply a reflection of one attempt that didn't work out. It becomes temporary, not permanent, specific, not personal. There is also a hidden gift in failure that success rarely provides: clarity. When you fail, you discover what truly matters to you. If something is worth failing for, worth trying again after disappointment, it reveals your deepest values and passions. Success alone cannot always tell you what drives you. Failure, on the other hand, asks you a direct question. Are you willing to continue despite the discomfort? Your answer to that question often determines whether you are pursuing something meaningful or just something convenient. Failure also creates connection. People are drawn not to perfect stories, but to authentic ones. When you share your failures, others see themselves in you. They are inspired not because you never stumbled, but because you stumbled and chose to rise again. This authenticity builds trust and influence far more than any flawless record could. In a world that often celebrates the highlight reel, failure reminds us of our shared humanity. Changing the way you see failure requires practice. It demands that you challenge the inner voice that says this means you are not good enough. Instead, you begin to tell yourself this is part of learning. This is a step toward growth. It does not mean you enjoy failing or that it becomes easy. It simply means you stop allowing it to define your worth. Over time, this shift creates resilience. You start to trust that no matter what happens, you have the ability to recover, learn, and keep moving. That trust becomes a quiet strength that transforms the way you live. Life is filled with challenges, and no one is exempt from them. They arrive in many forms: unexpected setbacks, personal losses, professional disappointments, or even the daily struggles that test patience and resolve. For many, challenges feel like walls, barriers designed to block the way forward. But when you shift your mindset, these challenges begin to look different. They stop being obstacles that hold you back, and instead become opportunities in disguise, hidden lessons that push you toward growth you might never have chosen willingly. What separates those who crumble under difficulty from those who thrive through it is not the size of the challenge, but the perspective they bring to it. When faced with adversity, it is easy to ask, why me? That question keeps you trapped in frustration and self-pity. But when you learn to ask, what can this teach me? Everything changes. A closed door might be guiding you toward a path you never considered. A failure at work might be forcing you to develop skills you otherwise would have ignored. A personal loss might deepen your empathy, making you more capable of connecting with others. The challenge remains the same, but your interpretation transforms it from something that breaks you to something that builds you. Think about the process of building muscle. In order to grow stronger, the muscle fibers must first be broken down through resistance. The stress of lifting weights creates small tears, and it is in the repair process that strength and growth occur. Life challenges work in exactly the same way. Without resistance, there is no strength. Without difficulty, there is no resilience. The very obstacles you wish would disappear are the same forces shaping you into someone more capable and more prepared for the next stage of your journey. Challenges also reveal parts of ourselves we would never have discovered otherwise. Comfort zones are safe, but they are also limiting. When everything is easy, there is no reason to dig deeper, to test your creativity, or to find hidden reserves of patience and perseverance. It is only when circumstances push you to your limits that you uncover new strengths. Some of the greatest innovations in history were born not in times of ease, but in times of crisis, when people were forced to think differently, act boldly, and find solutions against the odds. What appeared to be obstacles at the time later became catalysts for transformation. The way you interpret challenges also shapes your emotional experience. If you view them as punishment, you will feel bitterness and resentment. But if you view them as opportunities, even painful ones, you begin to approach them with curiosity and determination. This does not mean you deny the difficulty. Challenges can hurt. They can frustrate. They can bring moments of doubt. But holding on to the belief that there is something to learn, something to gain, keeps you moving forward rather than stuck. It turns pain into purpose. There are countless stories of people who turned adversity into advantage. Entrepreneurs who lost everything only to rebuild smarter and stronger. Individuals who faced rejection after rejection but eventually found the one opportunity that changed their lives. People who endured personal struggles that gave them the empathy to serve others in ways they never imagined. The common thread in all these stories is not the absence of hardship, but the presence of a mindset that refused to see hardship as final. Challenges also teach perspective. They remind us that success is not always immediate and that growth often requires discomfort. Without struggle, we risk becoming entitled, believing that progress should be easy or instant. Facing difficulties grounds us in the reality that anything worthwhile demands effort. It humbles us, reminding us that we are not in control of everything, but also empowers us to see that we are capable of adapting to far more than we thought possible. Another hidden gift in challenges is that they bring clarity about what truly matters. In times of ease, it is easy to get distracted by trivial pursuits. But when life tests you, you are forced to prioritize. You discover which relationships are genuine, which goals are worth fighting for, and which values guide your decisions. In this way, challenges act as filters, stripping away the unnecessary and highlighting the essential. They may be painful in the moment, but they leave you with a stronger sense of who you are and what you stand for. Choosing to see challenges as opportunities does not mean pretending everything is fine when it isn't. It means acknowledging the difficulty while also asking, how can this shape me for the better? It is about holding both the struggle and the possibility at the same time. This balanced perspective gives you strength without denial, courage without arrogance. Every great story has a moment of conflict, a turning point where the hero faces a challenge that seems insurmountable. Without that conflict, there is no story, no growth, no triumph worth celebrating. Our lives are no different. The challenges we face today are not interruptions to our story. They are the very chapters that make the story meaningful. They are the trials that, once overcome, will define the person we become. When you begin to embrace challenges as opportunities in disguise, life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that happens for you. The storms that once felt like punishment become the very winds that carry you forward. The difficulties that once made you want to quit become the experiences that prepare you for what lies ahead. In this light, challenges are not the end of the road, they are the beginning of a transformation you may not yet fully understand. Belief is the silent force that drives action. It is invisible, yet it shapes every choice, every risk, every attempt we make. When you believe something is possible, you behave differently than when you convince yourself it is not. Think of a person preparing for a marathon. If they start training with the mindset that they are too weak, too unfit, or incapable of running such a distance, their effort will reflect that belief. They will quit early, train half-heartedly, and eventually prove themselves right. But if they begin with the belief that finishing the race is possible, even if difficult, their training takes on a different energy. Each practice session becomes purposeful. Every setback becomes a challenge to overcome rather than a reason to give up. Belief also influences courage. Many people hold back from pursuing opportunities, not because they lack ability, but because they lack belief in themselves. They hesitate to apply for the job, start the business, write the book, or share their ideas because deep down they are convinced they will fail. The irony is that this lack of belief ensures failure before any real attempt is even made. On the other hand, someone with firm belief may not have all the answers, but they take the leap anyway. They put themselves in motion, and it is through that motion that opportunities unfold. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is belief that something greater exists on the other side of that fear. When belief is rooted in possibility, it transforms effort into consistency. People who doubt themselves often give up quickly when results are slow, but those who believe in growth understand that progress takes time. They keep showing up, even when success feels distant, because they trust the process. They believe effort matters. This is why belief is not just about optimism, it is about endurance. It gives people the patience to continue long after motivation fades, and that consistency becomes the very thing that leads to breakthroughs. Belief also shapes how we respond to failure. Without belief, failure becomes proof that we were never capable. With belief, failure becomes part of the journey, simply one attempt among many. A person who believes in their potential does not stop when things go wrong. They adjust, they learn, they try again. This mindset explains why so many of history's most accomplished individuals faced rejection, ridicule, or repeated defeats before achieving success. Their belief carried them through the moments when quitting seemed easier, and their belief ultimately fueled the actions that changed their lives. It is important to recognize that belief is contagious. The way you see yourself influences how others see you. When you carry yourself with confidence and conviction, people are more likely to trust your ideas, support your goals, and follow your lead. Belief radiates outward, creating an energy that inspires others to believe as well. This is why leaders who truly believe in their vision can move entire teams, organizations, or even societies. Their belief is not just a private mindset, it becomes a public force that shapes collective action. Yet belief is not something that appears overnight. It is built through small actions that reinforce the story you want to tell yourself. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you strengthen belief in your own reliability. Each time you step into discomfort and survive, you strengthen belief in your resilience. Each time you learn something new, you strengthen belief in your capacity to grow. Belief is not blind faith. It is evidence accumulated over time through consistent effort. The more you act, the stronger the belief becomes, and the stronger the belief, the more boldly you act. At the core, belief is the foundation of transformation. Before any great change, there is a moment when someone decides to believe differently. They believe their health can improve, so they start exercising. They believe they can learn a new skill, so they begin studying. They believe they can contribute something meaningful, so they take action. Every external achievement can be traced back to an internal belief that whispered, "This is possible." The whisper may have been small at first, but when nurtured, it grew louder until it fueled action that reshaped a life. Belief fuels action because it acts as the spark that lights the fire of effort. It transforms hesitation into movement, fear into courage, and doubt into persistence. The moment you choose to believe in possibility, you unlock a reservoir of energy and determination that pushes you forward. Belief may not guarantee immediate success, but without it, success is impossible. Lasting change has never come from the outside first. It has always begun within. People often wait for circumstances to shift before they decide to take action. They tell themselves that once the economy improves, once they have more support, once the timing feels right, then they will make a move. But the truth is, circumstances are rarely perfect. Waiting for the external world to align before choosing to change is like waiting for the wind to blow in your favor before you set sail. You can wait a lifetime and never leave the shore. Real transformation starts when you choose to see, think, and respond differently, regardless of what is happening around you. When you change the way you interpret your experiences, you create a different reality without anything external needing to shift. For example, two people can lose the same job. One might see it as proof that they are not capable, spiraling into self-doubt and despair. The other might see it as an opportunity to pursue something they were too afraid to try before. The event is identical, but the mindset determines the outcome. This shows that transformation is not about what happens to you, but about the meaning you attach to what happens. By choosing empowering interpretations, you reshape not only your perspective, but also the actions that follow. Transformation from within also builds resilience. External change is often unpredictable and temporary. You cannot always control the economy, your workplace, or the actions of others. But you can control your outlook, your response, and your choice. A person with an internal foundation of growth and adaptability can face external turbulence without collapsing. They bend without breaking. Their sense of direction remains steady, not because the world is calm, but because they have anchored themselves in an inner strength that circumstances cannot take away. It is easy to believe that change will come when something new enters your life: more money, a better partner, a different environment. While these factors can influence your journey, they do not create lasting transformation. If your mindset remains unchanged, external gains often slip away. Someone who wins the lottery without changing their relationship with money is likely to lose it. Someone who enters a new relationship without addressing their own patterns may repeat the same mistakes. Real sustainable transformation demands inner work first. It asks you to confront your fears, challenge your limiting beliefs, and take ownership of your growth. Another reason transformation begins within is because action flows from identity. How you see yourself dictates the choices you make. If you believe you are unworthy of success, you will sabotage opportunities without even realizing it. If you believe you are capable of growth, you will naturally gravitate toward challenges that expand you. Shifting your self-perception is one of the most powerful changes you can make, because once your identity evolves, your behavior follows effortlessly. A person who decides, "I am someone who values health," no longer has to force themselves into better habits. They act in alignment with who they believe they are. Transformation within also shapes relationships. When you learn to respond with patience instead of anger, you change the dynamic with those around you. When you develop confidence, you communicate differently, and people begin to treat you differently. When you grow in empathy, you connect on a deeper level, creating bonds that may have once felt impossible. None of these shifts require anyone else to change first. They begin with your choice to transform yourself, and the ripple effects naturally extend outward. The journey of inner transformation is not easy because it requires honesty. It asks you to face the stories you tell yourself and to challenge the comfort of old patterns. The greatest leaders and visionaries understood this truth. They did not wait for perfect conditions before acting. They carried an inner vision so strong that it reshaped the conditions around them. They believed in change, practiced resilience, and moved forward despite uncertainty. Their inner transformation became the spark that ignited external transformation. In the same way, your decision to change your mindset, to see challenges differently, to believe in your potential, is what allows you to create a new path forward. Every time you choose to respond differently than you did before, you are transforming. Every time you replace fear with courage, self-doubt with self-belief, or resentment with gratitude, you are reshaping the person you are becoming. And as that internal change compounds, your external world cannot help but shift